We're holding this press conference to talk about higher education cuts in the budget bill for the 2011 to 2012 legislative session. I'd like to thank Representatives Joaquin Castro, Donna Howard, Roberto Alonso, and Eric Johnson, who all worked tirelessly to squeeze every dollar they could for higher education into the budget. Without their efforts on the Higher Education Committee, college students would be facing a much more dire situation than they already are in this unfortunate climate. We would also like to thank Representative Castro's office for putting this together for us. We in Texas College Democrats contacted this office first, as the representative is the vice chair of the Higher Education Committee in the House, and his staff members graciously took care of the logistics of the event, ensuring that we as Texas College Democrats could continue to focus on education and outreach on our petition drive. We'd especially like to thank Jorge and Matthew and his office for all their efforts. One last thanks to the Texas Democratic Party and the House Democratic Campaign Committee for providing us guidance and encouragement when we started this drive about a month ago. I'd like to start by reading the petition that Texas College Democrats wrote for this event. It expresses our concerns with the budget and what it does to higher education funding in Texas. The petition that people signed was stated as, Texas Republicans in the State House do not care about college students. The Texas State Legislature passed a budget that no Democrats voted for that cuts essential funding from higher education. This is evidenced by $256 million decrease in the Texas grants from the 2010 to 2011 years to the 2012-2013 years. Students entering college will no longer receive these grants, only students continuing. The number of students receiving these grants will go from 86,830 in 2011 to 27,135 in 2013, a 69% drop in funding. Texas grants provide up to $6,780 for students, and at public universities that goes a long way. Funding for work-study programs has also dropped by $392.2 million. All this is occurring when the number of new students enrolling is increasing from 352,683 in 2010 to a projected 494,283 in 2013. Because the amount that colleges is unknown, they are unable to offer financial aid packages to students, and this is unreasonable. They expect more students to go to school and graduate on time, with less government money and higher tuition, fewer classes, and no undergraduate loan repayment program. This is unacceptable, and Texas deserves better from its representatives. Texas College Democrats was blown away by the support we received from students all across the state. After painstakingly combing through the online petition for duplicates and false information, we found that we had successfully obtained 1,514 valid signatures from concerned students all across the state. All in all, students from 60 unique universities signed the petition, which really goes to show how these cuts affect every college, from the small community colleges to the private universities, all the way to the flagship universities or our big university systems such as UT Austin, just a few blocks away from where we stand. At this event, I would like to hand it over to Alex Clark, who is the Vice President of Texas College Democrats. Thank you very much.
Howdy. First of all, let me thank the Representatives Alonso, Howard, Johnson, Castro. Your presence and support is encouraging. It shows leaps and bounds more effort to listen to the concerns of Texas students than anything done so far by the Republicans in the legislature. My name, as mentioned before, is Alexander Clark. I'm the Vice President of Texas College Democrats. I attend Austin College in Sherman, my home, and the residence of Representative Larry Phillips, a man who not once came to our campus to address the anxiety of the droves of concerned citizens about the state of higher education. And this is not an isolated example. All across the state, students have been outright ignored. Texas Republicans seem to think that we don't matter, that a strong future is not their priority. We began this petition for the many who will be hurt by these cuts to grants, work study, and loan repayment programs, the inaptitude, unwillingness, or both to adequately fund higher education. Disgust students, Republicans, Democrats, and independents from all across the state We are gathered today because we believe that the Republican Party's draconian measures and systematic control of the budget is absolutely decimating any hope that many Texas students have for a better future. The Texas legislature passed a budget that no Democrat by cutting essential funding from higher education. Beyond being bad policy, it is terrible politics. Republicans should fear the backlash of Texas students come 2012. A friend of mine at Austin College was an active college Republican and a staunch conservative his entire life. This budget has left him disillusioned and eager to join the Texas Democratic Party. He knows who to blame. Texas hasn't elected a Democrat to statewide office since 1994. The Republicans have owned the entire Texas government for nearly a decade and have been fiscally irresponsible ever since. Their lack of leadership and foresight produced this crisis, and they must be held accountable. Their actions are unacceptable. We shouldn't have to accept a Texas that forgets its promise to families who aspire to the dream of a college education. We shouldn't have to accept a Texas that forgets its promise to Texans envisioning a future of a well-educated citizenry contributing to a strong Texas economy. This kind of Texas is not just morally unacceptable, it's economically untenable, and it's not who we are as a state. We are a state that has always understood that our future is inextricably linked to our children. All of them. Even though our state board of education has perverted its place in history, we are a state that should believe Thomas Jefferson when he said that talent and virtue, needed in a free society, should be educated regardless of wealth or birth. Right now, 3/4 of the fastest growing occupations require more than just a high school diploma. Just over half of Americans have them. With these massive, reckless cuts, Texas's record will soon be much worse. Texas Democrats believe all Texans should have the opportunity to better themselves by pursuing affordable higher education at public universities, community colleges, and technical schools. But because of the careless mismanagement of our leaders in Austin, many are coming to the realization that we here at TCD have known all along. The Texas Republicans simply do not care about college students. The states that out-educate us today will out-compete us tomorrow. The countries that out-educate us today will out-compete us tomorrow. We are Texans, concerned about tomorrow, and we demand more of our representatives. Thank you for being here, and I would like to give the floor to Representative Dunham.
I always like it when students get involved with what's going on with the legislative process and how it impacts them, and I'm very grateful to you all for being here today and for setting up this opportunity to discuss the budget and how it's impacting higher education. I think clearly you can understand, I can understand, why these students are upset right now. The fact is that we do have a budget that is going to be slashing not only health and human services and public education, but also our investment in higher education. And no matter what the reasons are or how we got here, we have some serious challenges before us, and I can clearly understand why they're upset about it, and I'm glad that they're here speaking out about it. As they mentioned, there were several other reps that were supposed to be here that are delayed in traffic, and I based some of my prepared brief remarks here on what I anticipated they would be talking about. So if I don't cover some things that we need to discuss, I'd be happy to try to answer some questions about it. Our higher education institutions are facing serious challenges as a result of proposed budget reductions coming on top of already imposed cuts. Universities cut 7.5% in the current biennium, shouldering a significantly greater burden proportionally than other state agencies. The proposed budget makes an additional 10% cut in